two idiots think that they are mastermind geniuses, and I genuinely cannot wait for them to realize that this whole thing is absolutely absurd and it all blows up in their face. Let's get into a BB28 live feed update. If you don't want any spoilers, now would be the time to scroll on. So as a quick recap, Dee is our new head of household this week. Nominations have not taken place yet. There are still conversations ongoing, but I think I know where we're headed. So basically, this morning, Dee had a conversation with Devins and said that she really wants to utilize her bribe to try and set them up for success in the coming weeks. They decide they're going to start with Yash, and if Yash says no, they're going to move on to Mallory, and they're just going to kind of keep working down the ranks until they find someone to bite on this. Luckily for them, Yash is apparently really desperate, but I do see a world where Yash can kind of maneuver his way out of this a little bit. But I can't believe that he agreed to this bribe. It's absolutely insane. The actual conversation that happened in the head of household room was blocked from the feeds, but we've been able to piece together what potentially happened based on retells and other conversations. And basically it sounds like Yash accepted the 5K in exchange to not nominate a single icon on his next head of household. And as a reminder, this is a binding agreement, so he literally cannot go back on this. But it sounds like they also slightly loosely agreed not to nominate him this week in order to get him to agree to take the bribe. Their side, however, is not binding because it's not tied directly to the bribe. It's just like a handshake kind of deal. So if Dee still wants to nominate Yash this week, she can. But she's kind of decided that maybe she wants to go a different route. And she has her sights set on Drew. It sounds like maybe Yash spilled a lot of information, some potentially not so true, about some events that happened last week, essentially just blaming everything on Drew. It sounds like he pretty much insinuated that the reason he decided to nominate Dee and Angela is because Drew convinced him to, which is not true at all. So after the meeting with Yash, Dee decides to call a mosh pit meeting. She says she wants to air out all this information about Drew to see what he has to say, and she wants the girls and Barrett to be there as witnesses. Now in this meeting, they also end up bringing up Yash, so that they can see who between the two of them is telling the truth, because obviously Yash is saying something completely different than what Drew is saying. Now, once Yash gets in there, Drew does unfortunately act really shady and really shifty, and he's stumbling over his words and he's having to backtrack a little bit, and he's just not coming across very clear. And Yash is the complete opposite of that. He is speaking with a lot of confidence, speaking very clearly, like direct answers, not stumbling over his words. And so a lot of people think that Yash is the one that is telling the truth when really it's Drew. So because of this, Dee has decided that she is going to be nominating Lala, Taylor, and Drew today. She has let Drew know that she's very suspicious of him. It was actually a pretty interesting conversation because Drew was also very honest in that conversation as well, saying, yes, I technically have been playing both sides, but that's so I can get information for the crossovers. I've been bringing all of that information back over here to you all. I don't give them information. And really, if you're suspicious of me, I have reason that I can be suspicious of you because you've also thrown my name out. I've also been told things from Haley and Kamu about the week that I was nominated that you guys were willing to vote me out of the house. Like, all those things are also true. All those things should have been wake-up calls for Drew. I don't even know if this is going to be enough of a wake-up call for Drew because he knows that he didn't handle that mosh pit meeting very well. And so I feel like he thinks that they have valid reasons to be suspicious of him when it's really just absolutely insane. Now, Drew also is the winner of the time capsule this week, and he did technically get a power. He got the Never Not pass, which obviously is not helpful for him at all this week, and really won't be that helpful for the game because have-nots are probably ending very soon anyways. But he did get that Never Not pass. Is Dee and Devins really think that this is like a mastermind level move. They were just talking in the head of household room, and they were basically saying like, we get Drew out this week, and then the girls are closer to us. We pull Yash in. Yash is closer to us. Like, literally no one is going to be coming after us because we're getting out Drew, the one that's really painting us as a target. No, that's not how this works. Actually, what you're doing is Mallory and Melody and Yash have already talked about how they hope that Drew is the one to be put up, because Mallory and Melody have been suspicious of Drew since last night, again, because of information that Yash has given them that's not fully true. It's like a half truth to make Drew look bad. And Melody and Mallory are fully playing the icons right now, saying that they're on board with them to save their ass this week, but they are actually most loyal to Yash, Taylor, and Lala. So that's 5 people. I don't know where Haley is going to land. She was just having a one-on-one with Dee, and in a roundabout way was kind of defending Taylor. So I don't think that her working with Taylor is completely out of the realm of possibility either, which would literally just leave 4 people, the icons and Barrett. Barrett, who loves to throw head of household competitions so that he can continue somewhat being in the middle and stay liked by everyone in the house. Like, the icons are just going to be the icons all on their own. And I think it's really funny. I can't wait to see this just blow up in their face this week. They genuinely think that this is the smartest idea. They think that Drew is not with them. Yash has played the shit out of them this week. And I do know that Yash accepted that bribe. However, if he can throw a couple of HOHs and let someone like Taylor or Mallory or Melody get 2 of the icons out, or even one of them out, they can kind of control the votes, because unfortunately for Dee and Devins, their math is not mathing. And if Drew goes this week, that side of the house has the numbers moving forward. So great job. They have to be pumping some kind of stupid gas into this house. Let's get into a BB28 live feed update. So one thing that I forgot to mention in my earlier update about all the different conversations that were happening prior to nominations was a conversation between Dee, Melody, and Mallory. And in this conversation, Dee kind of airs out Drew's game to them and basically tells them that Drew has been working with the icons from the beginning, which is something they've been fearful of. She also told them that for Mallory, Drew says all he has to do is whisper something in her ear last minute, and that's what she's going to go with. And for Melody, she'll just do whatever Drew tells her to do. Like, she literally said these words to them, and they were super mad and super annoyed and were ready to just fully turn on Drew, except Melody basically was like, I'm turning on Drew in the sense that I don't care if you nominate him, but she also was saying she wasn't actually going to vote him out. And apparently some things happened during the nomination ceremony, or at the conclusion of the ceremony. Obviously, feeds were down during this time because feeds are always down for these ceremonies. So we do not know the details. I don't want to speculate on the details. So I am just repeating things that I have heard on the feeds. But from what I have heard on the feeds, Taylor is the one that kind of started this conversation. I guess when Dee concluded the meeting, she basically said, if anyone wants to talk publicly or privately, we can definitely do that. And then Taylor started a conversation publicly that turned into a house meeting. Now, the central topic of this house meeting was the conversation in the head of household room the week of Lala's HOH. And there was a lot of finger pointing going on about who was actually involved and leading the conversation about targeting the icons. This is also something that Lala brought up during her pitch to Dee to not be nominated today. She said that Drew and the girls were the ones leading this conversation. She said she remembered Barrett being present there, but didn't remember him giving much or adding much to the conversation. But she said it was really Drew leading the conversation and that she was kind of just listening in. Lala is still sticking to the story that She did not lead the conversation. She was just a bystander and was kind of just nodding along. Apparently, Mallory said that she never said she was going to target the icons in that conversation. She only said she would be targeting Kamu, Chuck, or Haley. It sounds like Yash also kind of co-signed on Lala saying that she was going to target the icons. And Lala, honestly, at least post ceremony, has told Angela, I did say that the icons should be targeted, but I didn't mean you, Angela, and I didn't mean D either. I meant Devon's. A lot going on, but this has led to Drew kind of working his way back in so far this week. Not to the extent that Dee is willing to go ahead and say she's going to backdoor Yash yet. There was some conversations going on about who Drew should choose for veto if he gets to choose someone, or who would potentially use veto on him. Mallory and Melody, even though Dee said all the things that she said that Drew has said about them, it's like they just put their full trust back in him immediately after this blow up. And it's like, this wasn't new information for Melody and Mallory. They were in the room. So like, how does this actually change anything for you? I kind of understand how this blow up would maybe change some things for Dee and Devon's because they weren't in the room. This should have no impact on how Melody and Mallory feel about Drew because they were present for the conversation. And it's not like the information that made them mad at Drew came from Lala, it came from Dee. What are we doing here? But both Melody and Mallory have said that they will use the veto on Drew, but they've also said that they don't want Yash backdoored this week. But Dee and Devon's have also talked in front of Drew about if the veto is won by one of them, are they going to use it or not? And Dee is pretty much like, actually just want noms to stay the same because I don't want to piss Yash off. Drew, this should be another wake-up call. This should 100% be another wake-up call, but I fear it won't, because he basically was just like, yeah, or like, if you want, you could like use the veto on Lala and still nominate Yash, and I can try and beat him in the blockbuster and we can try and get him out of here. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then Taylor and Yash are having a conversation after everything has died down. They're really frustrated with Lala. Very similar conversations that they had last week about Lala. And they're also saying that like Drew lied, which I will say the part that I have picked up on is that for that HOH conversation, for the most part of that conversation, Taylor was in the shower. And Barrett does co-sign that. Barrett apparently does speak up in the whole thing and say that he does remember Taylor being in the shower. But Yash and Taylor are talking, and Yash is encouraging Taylor to not use the veto on herself if she wins because he's afraid he's the backdoor plan, which there have been talks about, but Taylor is agreeing to it. Again, I say, what kind of gas are they pumping into this house? If you win the veto and you were on the block and there was just this big old house meeting, you use the veto on yourself. What is happening today?